Like you just cited two issues now
Yes.
that a judge
Honestly, the
talked
case
about.
of the judge was so surprising. Yeah, because he's a high-standing person in society,
Of
and he
course.
had been that marriage had been dissolved for a while. Do you know? Let me just quickly add. I'll let you continue.
Yeah.
Do you know that after he conducted that DNA test and found out that the three of the children from his previous marriage were not his, he was in a marriage.
Especially when people that we're hearing about this issue are people that are highly placed, people who are looking up to them, it affects every other person's down their line. And say, oh, I need to also go and check. I need to also go and check. In an establishment organization where probably the head of the organization is having such issue, some of the people
It
under
can
him
spur the men
exactly
to
say,
consider.
let me go and try my own also. Let me go and check. Even if they don't want to do it, they begin to be unnecessarily agitative concerning their wives, to begin to monitor, to see whether there is something, a cockroach in a cupboard, quote and unquote, to confirm, looking for opportunity to say, lady, let's go and do the DNA test. Or secretly going to do the DNA test, he will begin to think of such things.
I mean, there are cases of also secretly doing these things.
Of course.
You know, just a hair or probably a swab, and then the wife found out. You mean there's no trust at all?
Me.
Wow. I like that you brought up the antecedents now, because the fact that it's really a thing now, it has just created a great level of fear in the hearts and the minds of many young men, you know, whom are in marriages now. So my next question to you is this one: the introduction of DNA tests. In fact, there's been talks by some people that we should now make it like a regular thing. The moment a child is born at the hospital, let's just do DNA. That's how serious the clamor, you know, for men actually knowing whom they father, how affecting trust so gravely, so seriously in marriages, especially with the fact that it's really all around us. You mentioned antecedents. If you pick 10 people now, honestly, one raising a child so attached to a child for over 10 years and found out later that child was not his. So that just puts something. But there are also some other people who would feel like, okay, I no resemblance, especially with some basic traits that their mother had with these issues.
There will be a lot of problems. Yeah. If you allow them, we kick against it.
Okay.
That's the truth.
I was actually going to really ask that question one line. I think I was saving it for much later. I wanted to just ask you if you feel that the call to actually conduct, to do a DNA test once a child is born, at this point, do you feel it would be a right call?
To be sincere, based on our culture.
Oh, culture, that's true.
Based on our culture, it may not be the best step to be taken. Now, when talking about issue of probably the ownership of a child, paternity.
Yes.
There are different ways of conducting or getting the paternal knowledge about a child.
Wow.
This one we are talking about is just one of them. That is a proof. Now, we have other ones that are more friendly to our culture. As a matter of fact, DNA test to some extent is alien to our own, what we call it, customary law in Nigeria.
Wow, I didn't even know this one.
That is
but
a
this
fact.
This is a medical proven fact, you know, to show that this truly is your child.
Yeah, we have a customary law.
Yes.
Which is tenable, which is agreed. People agree about it. We also have the English law.
Okay.
Now, the English law sincerely gave total acceptance to the paternity test, okay, which is DNA
testing.
Now, coming to the other aspect.
Yes.
Now, we think about morality.
Okay, can you please help me by speaking into your microphone?
Thank you. We think about morality.
All right.
Now, we think about culture. Now, for a man to accept that this child is my child, legally it is acceptable acknowledgement. it is acceptable in the court that if I acknowledge that this child is my child,
Yes.
nobody can force me to do DNA test. It is tenable.
All right.
Now, if I don't want to go for uh, proof, which is DNA, I want to go for acknowledgement. I acknowledge is my child. Since we are looking at the confines of marriage,
Yes.
this woman, I got married to her 3 years ago. Now, 2 years ago, she has a baby, she conceived, and had a baby a year ago.
Yes.
To a normal cultural mind, it is acceptable and agreed that that child is my child. Now, if I accept this, that is acknowledgement.
Okay.
Now, paternity by acknowledgement. Now, if there is anything that is probably I'm doubting about it, then I cannot go for a proof. But going for a proof, now coming back to the issue of trust. For instance, I have 4 children, and I'm sensing that one of them has a trait that is never part of the trait of the rest.
Okay.
And I took a step of doing the paternity test, DNA test,
Yes.
and I realized that the boy is not mine. Then I will be moved to conduct the test for the rest of
For
them.
the rest of the children.
Now, probably I'm advanced, I'm of aged,
Yes.
and I've retired. And now I discovered that maybe all of them
Hi.
were not my children.
My goodness.
Now, my psychology, what happened to it? Now, the children themselves, what happened to them? And these are the reasons why I'm thinking conducting a paternity test at birth may not be the best. It has its advantage. It has what it will do. It will caution, it will cut off a lot of excesses.
Exactly.
That is the truth.
It saves time.
Because we need
too.
to balance it.
It also saves time.
Then,
you know?
if I know it on time, if I want to walk away, I decide and walk away. If I want to pick her and go on with it as part of me, I can still do the same thing.
Yes, it's your choice.
But we now have to come to individual decision, individual opinion.
All
But
right.
on my own opinion,
Yes.
I think it may cause more damage than good. That's my opinion.
All right. Okay. I'll open up the phone lines now. It's 10:23. You can be a part of this conversation, or you can call to win yourself the ticket to go see a movie at Kada Cinema. 0702 500 2007. Again, it's 0702 500 2007. Another number you can call this morning is 0907 084 9073. 0907 084 9073. So if you have an experience you'd want to share, it may even be a real life experience, and you want to stay anonymous, please feel free to do so. But we'd love to hear from you. Why do you think that this is now like a trend, like a common thing in our society? Why? Why? We have doctors whom are so trendy on socials these days, and at least once every week, when they come to say a few things on the X space, you would hear a case of paternity fraud. You would at least hear one. And then it's so heartbreaking because sometimes these men are already advanced in age. There's already bond with the parents, with the man and the children. And I don't know, how does a person recover from such betrayal? For a period of you had a lot of time to tell the person that this is what is going on. Really, I've made a mistake. Especially when the signs are there, you can literally see the traits that it would become too obvious to this person that this is not their child. Hello? 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 Oh, I did take the call, but I wasn't hearing anything. So if you're listening via radio now, please call back 0702 500 2007 and 0907 084 9073. It's 2 calls, and then the conversation will continue in the studio. Hi, good morning. Your name, please. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for this question. I had a lot of questions for you, sir, but this was definitely not amongst them.
Okay.
Is there a way around that? Aside the fact that a person says, you can trust me. You can trust me. I'm that lady you can trust. I would never do that to you. Is there any other way? You heard this question.
I heard this question. I
All
think
right.
the best we can do, prevention, they say, is better than cure.
Okay.
Now, when I sit down with a lady I want to get married to, and I said, have you heard about DNA test? That would be a shock. And said,
It's
yes.
true.
And I said, how will you feel if we are to conduct DNA test for our children? That will send a signal that in this marriage,
There's that possibility.
so she will stay clear. The lady, it can be from the other side as well.
Okay.
So that we don't, no, we are limiting ourselves to paternity now.
Yes.
Now the issue now is, if we discuss it before the marriage begins,
Yes.
it will help the marriages and help the societies. That's the place of counseling implication. So before the marriage, the intending couple should see before a counselor, and this should be exposed to them. They should talk about it before they get into that marriage, so that they know that there's a possibility of doing DNA test that will make both of them to stay clear from
Okay.
doing things that will cause for
Thank you.
that.
Thank you so much. I honestly would love to add now that the ladies listening, I hope you understand that at this point, it's no longer a question of why should he ever think of carrying out a DNA test. We've gone past that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women have broken the trust, and it is not ever a good place to put anyone. Betray them for so long. So we've gone past the phase of why should he ever consider that? Am I cheating on him? Have I showed him signs that no, we've really gone past that. Where we are now, if the man brings up the conversation at the early stage, especially before marriage,
Exactly.
that there's a possibility that in the future I would want to know. It shouldn't be a cause for alarm. You should understand where he's coming from. It's painful. It's really painful. You can have a friend and you formed an attachment with that friend. You may have had an issue with that friend and you're not as good as you were before. And it can really be so heartbreaking. So just imagine what a man would go through knowing that this is happening with his family. Because sometimes the children are already grown.
Of course.
And they don't even know how they fit anymore. You know, when they call the person father, there's a lot of concerns. It will now take effort from the man to reassure these children that, okay, by acknowledgement, I'm your father. I'm still there for you. With everything, I'm still very much your father. It's really not a good one.
It's a big damage to their psychic.
Indeed. We'll continue the conversation. I thought I still wanted to take two calls. 0702 500 2007 and 0907 084 9073. I really wish the young man that won the ticket last week, I really wish he put a call through again today. Really love to hear from him. So let's continue now. And look at with the real life stories, or let's say the examples that we've heard so far of the DNA testing and how it has influenced the outcome of marriages and also family structures in Nigeria. Do you feel that society, I mean people like you and I, do you feel that we have in any way encouraged this act to go on for a long time? Have we done that? Probably there were some things we said to people where they were dating, that made them feel like trust is not so big a deal. Trust is really, because I like to think that the element of society is there with everything that we do.
That's true.
Everything. So are we in there in any way? Have we encouraged this for too long? The fact that we're just on about the DNA testing thing now, is it coming too late?
Actually, I will not say it's coming too late.
Okay.
However, the society has contributed a little to this.
Wow, the society has contributed.
Yeah.
So we have that one caller.
All right.
Please, sir, we'll let you continue.
All right.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi, good morning to you too. You do sound like Chris, so Chris.
yeah.
Okay.
Mine is quick. Let me talk about this society and the DNA something.
Hmm.
See, it's a very good idea. If this agreement of having a child outside my matrimonial is something that you and I agree, fine. If they don't go on my back, not married. Now,
All right.
most of the people, some people know that the child comes from so. Then that was it. That you make sure that for how many years, if the woman can give such a thing, everything that woman cannot, then let it be agreement between me and you.
All right.
That I know that time is not problem.
All right.
Not the other way around.
Oh.
Silly and wrong. When I now find out, I will not take it myself.
All right, Chris. Thank you. Thanks for your contribution. I actually saw that line ringing, but then the call dropped. We'll talk now. We'll
Okay.
talk. Okay. So you were just about to tell us how you feel society has contributed to the rising cases of paternity fraud that we see now in society.
Like, we not talking about it at all.
Yes.
It's a contributing factor.
Exactly. And that was something for like 10, 15 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Everyone would just act like they can't see that truly this thing is happening here. This person is being deceived.
It's just like a plague, like this HIV/AIDS. Sometimes ago, people don't want to talk about it. They once they go for test, they don't want to go for test. The same thing is applicable here. When you are being confronted with such, say, shh, don't destroy our family. How can you say that? No, how can you think about that? People don't want to talk about it, and once we are not discussing it, there's no way forward. Just like the last caller said,
Yes.
there should be a discussion, there should be an agreement. If you want to, like people that probably are having a delay in childbirth,
True.
they can decide to go and adopt.
It's true.
They might know this is not my biological child, but I have adopted it. So if there's going to be anything like that, we both agree on it, but not discussing it based on our culture. It's what is I felt has contributed to this period that we have been far behind. So coming up now, it's not too late. Something can still be done. We can put in things to make sure we get it right and get it better.
All right. But still on that, some people have said that a narrative that is spread to young ladies whilst they're courting is also another reason why we see the case of paternity fraud on the rise. This is the narrative now. You're free to date more than one person. Okay, you're not yet married to this person, so you're free to see as much people as. You're not. There's no serious commitment to for as long as there's no ring on your finger. So you're not committed to anyone, but you can date him. You can date this. You make it open to them that this is more like, I wouldn't call it an open relationship, but they understand that because they're not committed to you, they don't entirely have your time.
They are free to have a
yes. Is that
relationship.
true?
Now,
is that true?
In our generation,
Yes.
we have a lot of that. But if you could trace it back to some generation behind,
Yes.
this were not happening. Maybe this may be one of the reasons why they don't want to think about issue of paternity test there. But today that young ladies are free to have open relationship since they are not attached to one. Before now, from the stories we have heard, when a young lady is growing, a young man is growing, once they have an eye on somebody, they discuss with the parents, you will not see them having maybe double dating, having this and having that. It will never happen.
Yes.
But today, it's the
like
order
a
of the
common
day.
thing now.
It's order of the day. If a lady is not doing that, they feel probably she's not
the thing is, they feel she's even reducing her chances.
exactly.
She's really limiting herself.
Exactly. So
Even the men approaching the lady will tell her, it's not you're married to you now. What are you doing? You say you're in a relationship. Are you in a marriage?
so in a way, that may be a contributing factor
Okay.
to why this has stayed long before we begin to address it now.
All right. Let's move on now. We've looked at, this is more like the introduction part of it. But let's look at legal implication of this one now. The legal and ethical considerations that are surrounding DNA testing, especially in the context of Nigerian marriages and paternity disputes that we see around.
Yeah. Now, the legal and the ethical tone to this.
Okay.
There are two major laws: customary law and the English law. Now, both of them have an understanding about paternity tests. However, in the context of Nigerian marriages, when there is a legal injunction from a proof one can decide to make an appeal to that. Now, what I'm saying is that in the confines of Nigerian law concerning this issue we are discussing,
Yes.
there is no overriding rule of the English law over the customary law.
Wow.
We check the English law,
Okay.
which is the ethical aspect of our law. In our customary law,
Yes.
somebody that has a child out of wedlock may not have a chance of winning a case against a man that is in a marriage and they are trying to argue who owns the marriage. Ethically a lot. That man don't have a high chance of winning me. I'm talking about the legal and ethical implication of child paternity in the context of Nigeria law.
Okay.
Now, in Nigerian law, we recognize the issue of ethics. Are you married to this woman?
Okay.
If you are not married to this woman,
Yes.
then you don't have a right to come and claim a child in that
A
marriage.
marriage.
That's what our customary law says about that. Talking about the ethical and legal implication of paternity fraud based on Nigerian law. So that's what I have to say about that. However, that's not an excuse for anybody to indulge in extramarital affairs, but it should be known that I can decide to go for customary law, I can decide to go for English law. Now, English law will go purely on, let's go and do DNA test. Even in English law,
Yes.
when a judge is to send for a DNA test, they don't usually do that for an adult. When the issue comes and it has to deal with issue of a minor, and they have to go and do a DNA test to ascertain the paternity of the minor. But when it is a fight between an adult, a man, and another man about the paternity of a child,
Yes.
most of the time in Nigerian law, they will direct them to customary law. Now, if they are to go for the English law to go and carry out DNA test, then there will be a fight between a struggle between the customary law and the English law, because in customary law, a man that is not married to my wife cannot come and claim a child that my wife had in a marriage with me during the period of my marriage with her. If the child has been born, or probably the first child, from history and from research,
Yes.
it's more common to first child. Issue of paternity fraud is common to first child, where probably the woman is not yet settled, like the case we just finished with, a woman that has opportunity of having open relationships.
Yes. Yes.
Some ladies will still have intercourse with an ex,
With an ex.
a day to their wedding. So anything can happen. So if it is during that period, then we can be fighting it. But if a wife gave birth to a child maybe 3, 4, 5 years in marriage after wedding, then it will be difficult for somebody, a man outside, to come and claim that child with the DNA test. In fact, before we can go for DNA test, so many things will have been discussed before getting to that level of that customary law.
All right, but it's really because of time. I would have loved for us to look at any form of punishments. Is it that nothing is done? We literally just by word of mouth tell the person that you have done bad. What you have done to this man is bad. Or in some cases, some men stay in marriages and then sow their seeds in different marriages too. Is that really where we are? Is that another reason why we see many of these cases spring up? There are no strong, no like real punishments.
I think because we have not been talking about it, that is the reason why we felt there is no punishment. If better search is made on this matter, there must be punishment concerning this.
Okay.
So it's just because we have not been talking about it. Now, if the law says don't have a child outside wedlock, and you do, there must be. That's why there's a law. There must be a consequence for any a breach of the law. So there must be a punishment. But because we've not been discussing it, that's why it has not been exposed. So these are part of things that will now bring up the idea of, okay, what are the punishments
Yes.
available to those people that are found guilty doing this and doing this.
Okay, let's move on. Let's look at support or counseling services
Thank you.
that should be available to couples or family who would want to undergo this. It's emotional. It's an emotional challenge, like a roller coaster associated with DNA testing. Sometimes there comes that time, especially when you see that there is a need to do that. So what would you advise in terms of support or counseling for them?
Thank you so much. And the best they can do at that period is to go for counseling.
Okay.
There should be support. Now, as a practicing marriage counselor, I have a rapport with the head of marriage registry, Port Harcourt local government,
Lovely.
few months ago.
Okay.
And I went there, I was doing a research
Yes.
on marriage. I spent an hour in there, and within an hour, more than 15 marriages were instituted. Within 10 minutes, they are done.
They're done.
In less than
Oh.
5 minutes, they've just
Yes.
read, they are done.
That's how fast
they
court
queue
proceedings
up.
are.
Yes, they queue up. Once it's your turn coming, they do it, you
Mm.
go. They do it,
Okay.
you go. Now, and after everything, I went and met with the woman. I said, I need a question too. I want to ask a question. This I am saying, is there any premarital training for these people? Because the way we are doing it, are you sure we're not running into trouble? And she now began to explain to me the procedure they went through
Okay.
before that period.
You mean the court? You mean for the court wedding? Because we always thought that this is something just for the religious bodies.
No.
Just for churches
There is a
or
marriage
for the
registry
Okay.
in every local government. Now, the one I'm referring to, she
Yes.
told me on her own.
And that's in Port Harcourt here.
Yes, Port Harcourt City local government.
Okay.
She said she always conducts interview and training with them before they get to the place and the point that I saw.
Okay.
And that she always encourage them when there is any issue, they should come back. Which means there is a support from the government. Now,
Lovely.
from
That's
the
great to
religious
hear.
body also,
Yes.
there is a support. From the educational institution, I belong to a body called Counseling Association of Nigeria. Now, these are professional counselors that are everywhere that the intending couple or couple can meet to discuss this issue.
Okay.
When dabbling into it without going for a support, it can be dangerous.
All right.
So there's a need for support. There's a need for counseling. There's a need for training.
All right. Not just to wake up one morning and say, I'm taking this child out today. Even you who feels the need to conduct that test, you need to prepare yourself
Yes,
emotionally for what
yes.
you're about to go through.
The child has to be looked into.
Hmm.
So many factors. Now, if 3 persons are intending to go for child paternity test, the outcome of their support
Yes.
or counseling may not be the same. For instance, a man that has retired and is planning to go for paternity test compared to a mid-year man want to go for paternity test,
Yes.
and compared to somebody who is just starting, maybe got married 2 years ago, want to go for paternity test. Now, we will not look at them the same way.
It's true.
Now, the man, the aged man must have gotten some children, grown-up children. Now, we have to put into consideration. Now, if you go for this, the result comes out either negative or positive. Who takes care of them? What happens to
what
them?
happens next?
Now, what are the ages of the children
Wow.
involved? All these things have to be put into consideration.
Exactly.
We don't just wake up one day and just jump into it because probably we have the money to do it. We just go ahead and do it. We may ended up causing more damage to ourselves. Even the man may not be able to start. If they tell the man that all the children has given birth to, he has nurtured throughout his whole lifetime, were not his children, he may have a heart attack. So all these things have to be put into consideration before we go in for them.
Wow. All right. The phone lines are still open. You can join this conversation or call to win a ticket to go see a movie. Pasikada Cinema. 0702 500 2007 and 0907 084 9073. Let me go over the numbers again. You should even save them. Save our studio lines. So you can always call and be a part of our conversations. They're always interesting ones on this dial. 0702 500 2007 and 0907 084 9073. Okay, so let's talk about stigma now. We have to move past there. If we want to see this thing stop, let's be honest. We wouldn't say stop, but if we want to see decline, because it seems to be on the rise.
That's true.
If we want to see decline, then we have to deal with stigma.
Yeah.
How would you address society now? Someone whom is listening now, and that is really fond of, that particular one, has heard something about this child or so. In fact, some people are terrible at it. They somehow assume that child is not, it does not belong to probably
The
the
family.
neighbor. Yes, and they start to make some comments even to the child. Yes, they start to make those. It's crazy for a child that has done nothing. The child knows
We told
nothing.
you are not part of us.
You mean they start to make those kind of statements? Because quickly, I need to just address that one quickly before we have the rounding of
Now,
conversation.
on a quick one, because we will not be talking about it, that's why we don't know the legal implication about it. Do you know customary law forbids this thing we are talking about? That every child should be treated equally,
Okay.
regardless of the circumstances that surround their birth. So the issue of stigmatizing a child that probably you are born out of wedlock and you are not my this, you will not be treated equally or the way we treat the rest. It is against the right of that child.
Yes. We'll continue. Let's just take this one. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, good morning. Your name, please, and your location. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. We truly appreciate that you're there listening. We truly like that. We're here to educate and also entertain. Okay, let's continue, because families play a huge role, communities also play a huge role, and if we've not attended to stigma, then we wouldn't go anywhere with this. We'll continue to hear of cases like this one. Please continue.
So, like I was saying, it is wrong for a child to be stigmatized
Yes.
because of the circumstance that surrounds his birth. Looking at it, it wasn't the fault of the child. The child knows nothing about who brought her. She grew up, or he grew up, to know him as a father, to know her as a mother. So it will be wrong for that child to be stigmatized, because if that is allowed, we will be killing the intellectual ability of the child, we will be killing the moral ability of the child, we will be killing that child psychologically, because inferiority complex will set in, and it will not affect every other thing that the child is doing. So stigma should not be allowed. And if I have my way, when this is now being well discussed, people should be punished for stigmatizing people on this issue.
And
So that
no one should be left out of this one, because sometimes it also comes from family members.
yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
They are the ones closest to these children. So they are the ones that can actually say some things to these children that can make them feel like, oh, you're not amongst. You don't really belong. But there's a case going on where you don't really know, but you don't belong, and it's wrong. It's very wrong to put a child through that one.
I think maybe that was one of the reasons why people are trying to kill this issue, that they don't want it to be discussed, so that this will not get to this. But education is key. When we educate people, they live better, they act better, they respond better to stimulus. So when people are probably, even a child should be well educated. For instance, if 3 children are born out of wedlock and somebody abused 3 of them the same day, they will not respond to that stigma the same way.
That's true.
So
I think one of them would at some point speak
Us-
up. Somebody
exactly.
could cry at that moment.
Exactly. Some of them will cry. One of them will decide to say, then what's your problem? That is not a problem. It does not stop me from rising to the top, and so on and so forth. So the point is, the parent needs to be educated
Yes.
on this.
Yeah.
The society, which you are doing now, must be well educated about this, and the sibling must also be well educated about this,
All right.
so that we will not be stigmatizing people concerning this.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're
It's
welcome.
our final question. It's really time really fast spent. 10:53 a.m. Let's look at resources now, or organizations that you would recommend for someone who has already done this one. Someone who has gone through the DNA test and it didn't turn out fine. It didn't turn out okay. They're looking at the challenges now, the consequences of that one. What would you suggest for them after? They probably didn't go through the preparation.
Yeah.
They just rushed, charged in, did the
They
test.
found themselves in it.
Yes, and now they're so heartbroken. What would you recommend for them?
I will recommend
after?
counseling.
Counseling.
I will
alright.
recommend that. You can decide to Google it, find a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, and it will help. And if you don't have access to such, walk into any university that has guidance and counseling department. Walk in there, ask question. There are professors on this. There are doctors on this that will be able to tutor and guide. Because many people, if they don't go for counseling, somebody may go and hang himself. Somebody may lose control while driving, accident.
I've heard of lives, cut short. People at some point just feel like not living anymore. Especially when they find out at a very old age. They feel like the joy, what brings joy and excitement to their life is all gone. So they live a shorter life then. Little thing and you hear they're down. It's
Do you know
sad.
a Vanguard newspaper carried out a research some times ago, and they were interviewing people. A man said it. I have it. He said, if this happened to him, he will kill the wife, kill the children, and be ready to face the consequence. Such a man, if he has gone for counseling,
Yes.
that idea will not come. So instead of perpetrating evil based on the result in our hands, we should go for counseling. And I also recommend that in every hospital or medical facilities where this are being done, the right thing is, before they meet with the doctor, they should meet with the counselor. That is the right thing.
Okay.
That's the right thing.
Yes, before the doctor carries out
Before
the
the
test.
doctor
Whether
carries
it's a
out the
family
test,
because some people they have family doctors now and they can just secretly want
they
to
should
go
not
run
just
this
go
thing.
in and do things that way. They should first make them to sit with the counselor that will talk with them. After that section, the counselor will ascertain that the person, whether male or female, is sound and right for that to be done. And there will be pre-counseling, pre-research or whatever counseling, and the post-counseling.
Okay.
So before you go in for it, you go for counseling. When it is done, even before, especially when the doctors will see the results before you.
Before you.
Most of the time,
scared
it is
of telling you.
a trained personnel should be the one to break the news. A trained counselor should be the one to break the news, not just the doctor, unless the doctor is trained for that. Not just to break the news, because the counselor have to put into consideration how old is the man, where is the wife, where are the children, how old are they, what could be the likely consequence of this. So all this will be put into consideration, and the person will be well guided before they break the news to him. Very important.
Very, very important. We truly have exhausted this topic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
should thank you.
Thank you for
giving me a
having me.
fantastic word on the
Thank you
radio
for
this
having
morning.
me. Thank you for having me.
My guest has been is a clergyman
Yeah.
and into many things also. I think we're going to have a very good conversation about the other things you talked about.
Okay.
The research work you said you've been doing for some time.
Yeah.
And also some places you've mentioned in the course of this conversation.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Okay.
We will talk.
Okay.
His name is Pastor Samuel Ajayi. Has
Thank
been
you.
my guest.
Thank you.
I am your host, Ifoma Omwebuti. This the size of today's package. It makes a return next Saturday, same time and same place. Wish 99.5 FM. In the course of this wonderful conversation, I forgot to remind the listener this space. Please, I'm so sorry about that. Well, Wish 99.5 FM, the exciting programs here for you, body and soul. Coming up at 11 now is Anglican Half Hour as a spiritual program. Please stay tuned and keep a date with us. Next Saturday, same time, an interesting topic also and some other guests that concerns building healthy marriages and also relationships. Thanks for your time and bye.